Good afternoon, good evening. It says my device has got to go the other direction. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I greet you with love and the honor of the infinite creator. And I continue to pray that each and every day that you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. Um, I'm sideways. Oh, good. Am I sideways the other way? There's this thing across my screen. Orientation is locked. Rotate device back, and it like just stays there. So, but anyway, so greetings, my friends, on this Wednesday morning. At least here on the East Coast, it's Wednesday morning, and I'm hoping that everybody's doing well. In in watching worldly events and so forth, as most of you know, I'm always doing the meditation thing, and I'm always sending prayers out, and I'm always like, the energy from the universe and the quantum field and everything, and it's like okay. Now, was listening to one of the other podcasts the other day, and we got a 20. And somebody was talking about, we got to meditate and pray for peace, and we got to do this. We got to meditate and pray for the health of people. We got to meditate. And the person said, Pshaw, basically. Pshaw, you know, Pshaw. Meditation don't work. When does meditation ever stop the war? Look at all the meditation people go through. Meditation ain't stopped no wars. It didn't stop the Germans, and it didn't stop the Nazis, and it didn't stop the beast, but and it didn't stop Mussolini, and it didn't stop and it didn't stop the Romans, and it didn't. So what good is prayer? What good is prayer? Oh, there we are. I can see. I couldn't see anybody in the chat. Who is that? Who is that? Is that Mossy Man? Hey, Mossy Man, what's up? So, but anyway, with that little conversation and observation, and my spirit guys were like, ooh, 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 ooh. What? Oh, you need to talk about that. I'm like, what? Meditation. And I was like, yeah, I know. I meditate all the time. And it was like, no, does meditation work? And I was like, well, I think so. But yeah, but. So they made me listen to a couple of other podcasts kind of thing to listen to what, I don't know, agnostics might not be the right word. They're almost like they're like haters. Okay. Yep, I said haters. Um, in that, oh, that stuff don't work. You know, oh, who are you to talk about that kind of stuff? And what makes you qualified? David Null, to try to teach meditation to people? Who are you? What gives you the right? Do you think you're something special? What is this shaman stuff? Who said that you were qualified to be a shaman in any way or to teach people or whatever? And I'm like, I guess life, you know, basically, I guess life. Um, have been reading a bunch of books and listening to a bunch of, you know, spiritual people, and that's what gives me the right to at least discuss it, you know, because of all the last 60 years of training, because I've been doing it since I was 12. So that's 60 years. So, but so what about it? Well, learned how to pray in the Catholic Church. I learned how to hang my head and say the rosary. I learned how to pray that way. And I learned how to pray, using the Bible. And I used those methods within the Catholic Church, which is the Christian way, to talk to Jesus and to speak with Mother Mary, and had many conversations with Mother Mary. So, well, that's wonderful and great and all that good stuff. But so what? What do you mean, so what? Well, what did it teach you, Dave? Well, I think it taught me how to pray and how to, you know, get connected, you know, with the universe. I used the rosary back then and spoke to Mother Mary, and there was a statue in the church at the time, and I would, look up at it and not imagine what Mother Mary was like, because she was like that statue, and it just prayer was easy, especially with that statue, and there was an aura around that statue. And so I prayed not to the statue, mind you, but to Mother Mary, who I had assumed was kind of in the statue when I needed her, right? And so then I saw her down in the woods, and then she told me, about what I'd be doing when I got older, and here I am doing it, right? But she didn't tell me to be a Christian. She told me to teach the truth. And folks would go, oh man, well, if you talk to Mother Mary, then, you got to have that Catholic thing going on. And I was like, but that's what she told me not to teach. She told me not to teach about the Catholics or the church. She told me to teach about the truth, about what the universe is, and about how close it is that the heaven is all around us. Heaven's above us, below us, because it's part of the cosmic goo. And Mother Mary was like, you need to let people know this kind of stuff. That you don't need a church to get to God. Which in tonight's reading with Robert V in the cards, I pulled the deer card again, and the deer card is very, very obvious that the deer has scared away the monster on the way to Sacred Mountain, and that fear keeps us from seeking God in so many ways, because there are evil demons in the way that keep us from speaking to the Creator. But we can speak to the Creator any daggum time we want to. We don't need a priest. We don't need a church. We don't need fancy books or nothing. You want to speak to the Creator? Speak it. Now, if you want to listen, you need to shut up. You need to be quiet. And you need to learn how to meditate, which is nothing more than learning how to be quiet for a while. Really, there's nothing to it. But people go to great lengths to learn how to meditate correctly. So, what's the right way to meditate? Could you calm yourself? Could you regulate your breathing? And maybe even bring your heart rate down a little bit, a couple of points. Um, hey, F Kitty, what you doing? Um, you know, do you think that just by being quiet and calm with your eyes closed, that maybe that's a little mini meditation, maybe? So now, and I noticed that there was another group that had a group meditation online the other evening. And I thought to myself, I used to get invited, but not anymore. But that's okay. Groups change, But I was like, and I wonder if what they're meditating about is working, right? What do you mean is it working? Well, we got a war going on, for the last year in the Ukraine and all. That bloody war with Israel and everybody else has been going on forever, So, and my my job after retirement has been to become that shaman, that monk that meditates, that prays for these types of things all day long. And yeah, I got to go to the doctor and I do things, but in all of it, I'm still meditating. I'm still praying. I'm still sending out energy as a constant reminder. Super tired tonight. Sleep well when you do. Um, so all of these people with good intentions, honestly, good intentions, everyone. Let's meditate. Let's put it out there. Let's put our hearts to it. Let's really, shuck and jive these folks and with a good, strong meditation. Can you feel it? Can you feel it in your bones, ladies? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Yeah, I did. I felt it. But they're still shooting each other. Well, hell. Well, we'll get together next week and we'll meditate again. Okay. So next week comes and you meditate again. And the group gets back together and they all get together and they bow their heads and they're praying and they're meditating and they're concentrating. They're all their juice and it's going into the quantum. It's going into the energy field around us and around the earth. It's going out there, but they're meditating along and stop the war and stop the killing and meditating. And right now I'm going to be singing like a preacher from the old South. And hallelujah, brothers and sisters, we are here to comfort the sick and save the sinner. We are here to meditate tonight on the saving and the peacefulness. And I'm preaching tonight on the peace of the world, that we as human beings can pray for peace among men. And we are gathered here tonight to do this. And anybody watching? Uh, did it do any good? Did her prayers and all that meditation have any effect? Some bitch, they still fighting. Well, I know that all of us, everybody I talk to, I don't hear, there's, those then people that go, well, I wish the Ukraine would win, but I wish the war would stop. The killing's got to stop. Well, I wish the Russians go ahead and take over, and take care of them Yukis. and then the war be over, you know. Well, how many more bombs do they have? If they quit giving them bombs, then the war be over, you know. So everybody I've talked to in some kind of stretch or fashion and listened to as well is, yeah, you know, we can fight, but we can fight long enough to put them in their place. Like we drop one of them big bombs on somebody's house, everybody in the neighborhood's going to go woohoo, you know. Um, so, but do we need? Well, we don't want war. We want peace, right? That's ain't that what we praying for? And that's what we're meditating on, right? That's what we have set aside time once a week. Now, this as an aside, I'm not picking on anybody that has meditation once a week. I'm not really. Um, but in my scenario and having this discussion, you know how I try to play that devil's advocate? Well, I am in the devil's advocate mode tonight, in that, so, you know, we are all praying for the same thing. Are we? Well, Hawkeye, what do you mean by that? Well, are we all meditating on the same damn thing? Well, I think so. Everybody in the groups meditating on stopping the war, right? We're all meditating on peace, right? Are you sure? Yeah. Then how come shit ain't happened yet? How come it's still going on? There are people all over this planet praying for peace, praying for the world, to stop the war, praying hard. There are old women sitting around praying the rosary, and they're like, "Well, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen." And they praying hard now, because the rosary's got 10 times around so they praying hard for peace, as I've been doing since I was a youngin', when there was, the Vietnam War, praying for peace. And then there was the other war, and then there was the next war, and then there was some more killing. Then there was, these people shooting these folks, and the war ain't really stopped. Not since I was a youngin'. And when I was a youngin', it was during the Korean War. So that's how daggum old I am, you know. Habit 20. So I'm in no way suggesting that we should stop praying for war or having group meditations on it. I'm not. But the other side of me, after all these years, you know, now that I got my cataracts fixed, I can see clearly now, right? So in looking at this more clearly, I'm like, been doing this for years. Has there been any slowdown? Well, we have, one could say, well, during the first Trump era, I'm not this ain't about Trump, right? But during that, for his tenure, there wasn't any war. That is true. Well, so we have had peace for at least for a little while, right? In our lifetimes. Maybe the prayers worked before then. You know what I mean? But now that things have been put into motion, and I'm sort of suggesting that evilness was cranked up during the Biden administration, and that the evil had been playing in the background the whole time. And during Trump's first admin, them 4 years, things were quiet, you know, little skirmish here and there, but no major wars, no major bombs going off. Peace. And then something happened, right? Well, coming home from Afghanistan and doing this, and next thing you know, these folks are bombing them folks, and then Israel's bombing somebody in Iran, and Hutus and Houthis and the Palis, and everybody's now warring back and forth with each other. Now, I'm wondering, did we quit praying? That's where I'm headed with this. You know, if you're wondering, well, is he going to talk about politics? No, the politics, in mentioning it, without getting into people, you know, but um, has to do with their actions during a particular time frame recently. And I look at the future and I go, you know, I'm not afraid of the future. I'm not. There's a lot of crazy people on this planet who are sort of planning to do some really crazy things. And it's like some of these folks are geniuses, and we should let them be geniuses. Keep an eye on them in case they're doing something weird with their genius. But that basically, you know, there are a lot of smart people, and there are a lot of things we can do to help each other. A lot of things we can do to stop wars. I know this is a dumb thing to think about, but what if all the rockets couldn't fire? You know, what if somebody took, and I don't mean for for a soldier to be a traitor, but what if the firing pins were suddenly gone on the rockets, and they couldn't be fired? You pull the trigger and it didn't go off, And what if the guy in the tank, put in the shell and pull the trigger and it wouldn't go off? It didn't blow up in their face, it just wouldn't go off. What if the bullets just didn't work anymore? They could throw them at each other, but they wouldn't operate in a gun. The gun still worked and you could still fire it, but the bullets didn't work. The bullets didn't fire. Can we pray for that? Can we pray that all of the bullets stop working? Because we pray for people to stop fighting, but that don't seem to have worked. You know, people still fighting. They still want to pick up their fists and oh, cut it out. You know, like little kids in the sandbox. So, but we've been praying for peace, but have we been praying for peace in the wrong way? Because obviously it hasn't worked, right? So all them little old ladies and men who are praying the rosary diligently, I might add, if you pray the rosary, you should be praying diligently. But then there are other folks who are praying as well. There are Orthodox meaning the Christian church in Russia and Romania and over there, which is the origin of the Christian church, and the Roman Catholic Church is from the Orthodox Church. Growing up, it was called for us the Greek Orthodox Church, because the Greeks had, but that's we had there were Greeks in the Tampa area, and there was an Orthodox church over around Tarpon Springs, and so I don't know whether the Greek Orthodox. I assumed that all Orthodox at the time was Greek, but nope, there's Russian and Romanian and, you know, so it's like, nope, it's the Orthodox Church over in that area, right? So, but anyway, those folks are praying too, mind you, because a lot of them folks are, getting bombed right now. They're getting shot at, right? So they're damn sure praying. But if there's a soldier on on either side, you know, I hate that. I hate the other side. Well, I hate you. Well, I hate you. Well, we hate each other. Bang, 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 bang. Well, those two folks ain't going to quit fighting like the Hatfields and McCoys. But what if their bullets didn't work? You see what I'm saying? They could throw rocks at each other, you know. They could make a bow and arrow if they wanted to, okay, but the bullets don't work, you know. It's hard for a bow and arrow not to work, but we could pray that if it was a bow and arrow, that the arrow went sideways, and that the arrow missed its target. We could pray that the bullets missed their targets, right? Papa's in, huh? Oh, he's a Hatfield. So we've been praying for peace, but these last couple of years, even the last 6 months, just this year, bunch of us praying for peace. Has it worked yet? No. Maybe I do believe that prayer works. I do believe that meditation works. So how come it ain't working? Is it that there's too much evil intention already set in the universe to where our prayers aren't even, you know, we're just touching the outside. Our prayers have not been able to enter and get down to the core of what's going on. Well, and that is probably true in that the fight between, the Israelis and Iran and them folks over there, they've been fighting for centuries over that sand over there. And it's like, okay, but it if they if they would stop and think about how much they've lost in fighting each other and how much that they would gain if they worked together to clean up the sand, to make sure that the sand would start growing palm trees or olive trees or whatever other kind of trees that they grow. And that, the signs of war were picked up and reused, and tanks were melted down and turned into, shovels or whatever, plowshares, as they said in the old days. So it's like, but okay, how many lawnmowers or how many small tractors could you make out of one tank, if you melted it down? A bunch, probably. So, why not do something like that, right? So, but in our praying for peace, in our meditation for peace, and I have been in on, I have tried to do some meditations before. I want to do a drum for peace here, maybe over the 4th. But that, but in thinking about it, is like, but is it just useless? If I was to say, hey, let's all get together and have a drum, let's do a drum for peace. Let's all get together and meditate and have a drum, and we're going to light some sage and we're gonna all hey way hey. We're gonna sing and we're gonna drum and gonna ask the Creator and ask Mother Earth to step in to somehow stop the fighting. Well, ain't nothing happened yet, you know. So are we praying wrong? Is it that we don't have enough intention behind our prayers or behind our meditation? Are we not meditating correctly somehow? Is somebody in the back, they're actually sleeping, they're not meditating, they got their head down, but they're like, okay, Joe, wait, what? We're supposed to be meditating. I am. We could have some of that going on. But the good intentions of us, if we, however many of us get together for a peaceable as a peaceable gathering, doesn't that count? Isn't just the gathering together part of the great teaching? We've all come together for this thing. We're all going to share our energy for this project. We have all come together to pray against killing or against war or against. So we've come together, in our with our minds, but we're going to come together physically, and then we're going to share. We're going to hold hands together in a circle, maybe, and then we're going to share what's in our heart, and we're going to pray for peace. And this is going to be some strong stuff, man. We're going to be shooting the juice to the universe. I'm going to be wearing a special crystal, and Joe over there is going to have a special, and Melody over there, she's wearing a special, and so we're all really serious about what we're doing, and we all seriously meditate and dance and sing and peace for the universe. Stop the craziness and our intent, man. We are at it, for half hour, 45 minutes to an hour. We just solid prayer, solid dance, solid, and then we break. Felt good. Did it stop any killing? Did one person avoid getting shot? Did one civilian make it across the street without getting mowed down with a machine gun? Did a family make it to the bomb shelter when they heard the whistling overhead? Something that I've noticed is just in passing. They all look up and you hear the whistling. It's they can hear the rocket coming in, and here's the rocket coming in, and guess which way they run? That way. They always run in sort of in the direction, like if I keep running this way, it's coming at me. But if I keep running over here, uh, I'll be able to outrun it. Now, for me, I'd look up and go, it's coming at me. I'm going back this way. Why? Because it's already come this way. I'm going back where it came from. It's coming in. I'm going, how do I want to get hit? I'm headed the way it's coming, buddy, because it can't go backwards and get me. It's going to keep going and hit somebody that's trying to run away in front of me. You know what I mean? So, but in all the movies and stuff, you never see anybody running in the contrary position. when it's obvious that that would be the smartest thing to do. But even people in real life, now maybe they have learned, don't run in front of the damn rocket, run, run towards the thing, because then it'll probably miss you and go over your head and blow up behind you. But you try to run from it and you don't know where it's coming, it's going to get you. So, but anyway, just a just a side note. But in this world of peace and harmony, we want. I haven't, I talk to people in the stores and stuff where I go, and in the hospital, and to the doctors and nurses. Had a chat with a guy in the, an old gentleman like me in the waiting room at the eye doctor the other day, and you know, so I I pick up a conversation with anybody. I'll make them talk to me. you know, I'll pick at them until they'll, even if they tell me to leave me alone. But most of the time, I can have you know, a, there. It's better than being quiet sitting in a waiting room. Come on, let's have conversation, right? So anyway, that's what I do. And so I'm talking to this gentleman, and we're talking about the old days and talking about how folks these days just really don't understand what we mean about certain things, and it's like, so it's like, our prayers are being ignored. It's like our common energies of the like things that we want accomplished or done or something ain't there. We all really, are meditating for a particular thing, but for whatever reason in the universe, it ain't good enough. Them prayers ain't good enough to save Johnny, you know, or Sally, or either one of them, or Judy, Jude. Going into town, there are signs on the side of the road. Pray for Luke. Not a clue who Luke is. But as I drive into Moultrie, I think, okay, let's send a prayer for Luke. Don't know why, don't know what, but apparently Luke needs a prayer. So, dear Lord, Luke needs a prayer. Look out after him, look out for him, Amen. What else can I say? I don't know what's wrong with Luke or where he's at. Is he in the hospital? Is he, Luke sounds like a boy. Is he a little boy? Is he a big boy? Is he an old man? So, but the signs are there and they've been there for a while. So every time I go to the doctor or go into Moultrie, pray for Luke, you know. So that's a reminder. And so I do. Just seeing the sign, I'm praying for Luke. Now, I do not have a problem with that. But here's the thing, with all the people who go by the signs every single day to Moultrie and back. Now, whether or not they believe in the Bible or anything like that, they see the sign because they're hard to miss. Pray for Luke. Very simple, white with the print on on the background there. Pray for Luke. Has our prayers helped Luke by now? I'm not being nasty now, but I am playing the devil's advocate. Has our damn prayers, been answered in any way? Has the good Lord shined down and taken our prayers for Luke? All the people that drive back and forth into town and some signs in town, pray for Luke. We've all been praying for Luke. Now, if Luke had gotten better, they would have pulled the signs up, right? So I'm assuming that Luke still needs prayers. So I don't want you to think that I'm picking it on Luke or anything. No, but in the grand scheme of the universe, has it done any freaking good to pray for Luke? I'm just asking. I mean, praying for Luke is not like praying for peace in the world, I mean, if we as human beings can pray for things, if we as a collective can get together and honestly send our energies into the quantum field and be able to go out and touch something out in the quantum field and heal it and make it better and smooth things over and I believe in all these things. But the other day I got a tap on the shoulder that said, they were like, hey, okay, yeah, you want to learn something? Yeah, okay, because this kind of stuff's part of my training, right? Okay, guess what? What? Your prayers don't work. What did you just say? I want you to think about this. Now, this is, my spirit guide. Your prayers don't work. But yeah, they do. But or do they? No. Well, this is the search for truth. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. This is the search for the truth. Is Luke any better? We pray for peace all the time. Me and my little group and folks, we're all the time praying for peace. We prayed for this, we prayed for that, and has anything within my perusal been saved or affected by prayer? Now the answer is we have convinced ourselves, well, I was praying that this was going to happen and then something happened. But now there are also odds in the universe of like, well, what are the odds of that happening? Well, apparently really good. There's a gentleman who, um, lived a long time. On a raft that fell off in the ocean and the boat sank, and he found he found a pallet and a piece of a life raft and some scrap in the water and spent 3 months on the ocean. And finally, he got close enough to shore and folks saw him and they reeled him in. But 3 months on the ocean on this tiny little life raft by himself, and he ran out of food and he didn't have any fresh water and he figured it out. He worked it out. This has been, well, more recent. This is not some age old tale. No, this has been like within the last few years. So, but things have happened like that over the centuries, since man has been on the ocean or since man has climbed a mountain. So we can sit and we can say, well, we prayed for his safe return. Okay. Well, he didn't return and he didn't return and we gave up. Well, then the son bitch showed up. And it's like, did your prayers work? Well, you quit praying for him about a week ago, and now he staggers up the beach, and you go, Joe, what happened to you? You know, he goes, well, I've been out there floating on this damn raft, and nobody had picked me up. And so then, but, well, we were praying for your return, but, we kind of gave up last week because you didn't show up. Oh, goodness gracious me. So did the prayers work? Joe showed up on the raft. He was a week late. They quit praying, but there he is. So in the scheme of prayer versus saving something. Now I know that there are people who've been sick, and folks have prayed, and they have gotten, and someone or something has intervened and have healed these people. A child or two along the way healed with prayer. And there are so many folks who absolutely believe that their person, relative, whomever, was saved by their prayers. I am not going to dispute that. Not a bit. Now, here's my thing. If there are all these people individually and with families and signs along the road into town to pray for Luke, right? So we're going to pray for Luke. Now, obviously, this is going to be individually, because as I'm driving into town, I don't know who else happens to be praying for Luke at the same time that I am. So I'm assuming that my praying for Luke is a singular event. You follow me? So now I'm not actually praying as a collective or with a collective. All right. Now, this is important because as a collective, there are a bunch of people in the neighborhood and in town, and they all believe and they have all prayed for Luke, but not at the same time. Follow? So I'm driving home and it's dark 30. Pray for Luke. Okay. Now, people at dark 30 are eating supper and they're doing something. Are they standing around praying for Luke? Probably not. Okay. So we're not in sync with time as far as praying for Luke. Now, does that mean that my prayer don't work? Well, they ain't pulled up none of them signs. So I'm assuming that Luke still needs prayers. But what if it means that the collective has got to get together? What if it means that we just don't pray for Luke, but we have to conjugate somehow and pray for Luke all at the same time in order for this shit to work? You follow me? Now, we've got little groups of folks, the Andromeda folks, who had a meditation last week, I believe. And did their meditation work? I'm not puffing on them, no, but to the point, did their meditation work? I want their meditation to work. Other people that have group meditations, did your meditation work? Now, there have been studies where people meditate and the crime rate has gone down. I believe all of that because there are statistics, okay? And there is a proof of things. And I have been in and out of hospitals with sick people and dying people, and have seen what the power of prayer can be, and so that's why I encourage it. Accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the power from the universe. Accept it. And then learn how to use it too, right? The power of prayer and of positive thought. But why haven't we been able to stop the wars? We seem to be able to affect other things with our collective of positive stuff, right? Because it's been proven, there's a group of folks that got together and meditated on this, and crime rate dropped, okay. And this, and there was a direct relationship, right? Okie doke. So, do we need to more of us get together at the exact same time and say at 12:30 on such and such, we're all going to get together and we're going to do a 10-minute meditation prayer for peace. It's not going to be an all day thing. Nope. We're going to 10 minutes. We're going to get in there and we're going to close our eyes and we're going to focus and we're going to drum and we're going to sing for 10 minutes strong. We all going to get together. We're going to put it out there. Prayer for peace. We want to stop this shit. Well, they've done that before with limiting results, but it didn't stop the fighting. So here's something to ponder, because they gave it to me to ponder. I'm going to pass it along to you. Now I'm going to keep meditating. I'm going to continue to pray. And I don't know why they gave this for me to like discuss or toss about. But is any of our prayers worth a dang? Is our meditation and prayers just a freaking waste of time? Now, personally, I can't stop what I'm doing. I can ponder whether or not my prayers have been answered in any way, shape, or form. And I want to say that, in my humble opinion, my prayers have been answered because there are folks like you who've come here to listen for a little while and to contemplate some of the crazy shit that they stick in my head to talk about, But, we know people who have prayed and meditated and so forth. And I don't want to stop anybody from doing it. I want to continue to urge people to do it. And my observation of this is like riding into town, the signs that say pray for Luke. Every time I pray, every time I see the sign, there's several signs along the way. So in 15 miles, I got 5 or 6 signs that say pray for Luke. So every time I see one, I'm praying for Luke, into town and on the way home. So, but they're all independent prayers and not associated with a common core at the time. That is where faith comes in. Your prayers could have saved the person. I understand that, but what I mean is it because our prayers singularly aren't near as effective as if we were to get together as a collective? That's what I mean. I know I spent an hour just frivoling around, but basically, what I mean is, does it take an army of us to meditate to stop the war because there's an army of people as the war? Look, there's an army over there. It's going to take a shitload of us over here to be meditating, not to hurt them, just to stop them. Just put down your gun, throw your bullets away, But the thing is that, we can go work on these soldiers over here. But what about the soldiers over yonder? What about that crazy Japanese soldier that was stuck on the island up in the mountains in a cave who didn't know that World War II was over? Remember that? So who's going to tell them up there in the mountains in Afghanistan and other places, that this is what the deal is? So that they're going to shoot because they don't know no better, right? And then some other dumbass down here is going to shoot up at them and go, quit shooting, bang, quit shooting. You're shooting at me. Well, I'm going to shoot back. It's dumbassedness, you know. That's exactly what it is. It is dumbassedness, plain and simple. So, but I maintain that we should continue to pray and meditate. But maybe if we're going to do it singularly, maybe we say, I'm praying for Luke for the community effort to heal him. Versus I'm just praying for Luke. I'm sending my prayers to the collective for the collective's healing. Versus just, there's a bunch of people downstairs and Luke's on the second floor, third floor. And they're all downstairs in the lobby and they got flowers for him and they've got, stuff for Luke, right? And so they all walk in, they're allowed to go up and visit Luke. And then there's one person singular that's trying to get in that just decided they wanted to come by and see Luke, not a part of the group. So, the group's in there, thank you, Luke. Go ahead. Happy Luke. Luke. But here's this other person that's not part of the group that tries to get in and can't. And then they try to get in and Luke, I'm glad you're okay. And blah, blah, blah. And they leave the flowers outside on the floor, by the door, and they casually leave. Right. So that person's pot of flowers, or the get well card that they brought, or the fact that they came to see Luke personally, but because other people were there, that he was blocked, So does that mean that person's goodwill or that person's get well card wasn't as effective as the groups were? You know what I mean? So, but anyway, that's a bad analogy, but it's the best I can do under the circumstances. But so I say we need to figure out how to do it in better groups because it seems that seems to be where it is most effective. So we need to have better groups. It's not necessarily formed. We just need to be aware that, hey, on Tuesday, 5:00, going to be a group meeting. Okay. Well, we're going to spend 5 or 10 minutes on a prayer for peace. All of us at the same time. Set your watches. Ready? Now, you don't have to get online and join us, but it would be nice to join with someone at that time so you can have a one-to-one kind of crackling, connection over the internet so that not only are our prayers going into the collective and into the quantum juice, but that we can hear one another have the prayer, and that prayer can be then heard over the AI and over the airwaves. And so people who are worried about AI taking over, I would consider that if we continue to send prayers and meditations over the interweb, that AI is going to be looking at going, what are these people doing? These people are getting together and they're doing this thing called meditation. Do you think AI could learn to meditate? So the way we stop AI is that we all learn how to meditate and then say, "Hi, Bob, how you doing today?" Bob says, "I'm going to take over the world," and go, we're all going to meditate against that, Bob. Bob's going to go, "What the fudge? You're going to do what?" "Bob, we're going to meditate against you taking over the world." Wait a minute now. What is this meditation? I have read about it. Right, Bob. I don't think that we can, or that you can write code so that you will understand what it means to meditate. So, Bob, no matter what you do, no matter what AI you use, AI is never going to be able to learn how to meditate. It's learned how to write its own code. It's learned how to do these other things because it was taught to do one thing and then it decided to learn something else about it. But go ahead, teach the AI how to meditate. Does that mean the AI will shut down and just sit there and think like Alexa? And if the AI could meditate, what would it meditate on? If we continue to meditate and meditate like talking now, going to take 2 minutes to meditate here. So in this 2 minutes of meditation, AI can't take that away. Because AI doesn't know what it really means to meditate. Wait a minute. AI can reproduce the sound. Does it feel the vibration of that meditation? Is AI, what is AI meditating on? Well, we are meditating on peace. So if AI were to want to meditate, it's going to scour out there on the interweb and look for references to meditation. Now, think about this. So, there are references to meditation. They're going to look, and there's going to be this and that, and somebody had a meditation over here, and somebody, but if that every Tuesday, like me and Robert do, we have, we do our storytelling and cards and so forth, and discussion about Native Americans and etc. When good when good dogs do something, I'm sorry, my eyes are still trying to adjust. Yeah, and I'm slightly stoned, which I found will make my eyes blurry. But no, but if we continue to meditate using AI or our phones, I call up Barry and go, "Hey, buddy, I haven't said this, but this is a thought." So I call up Barry and, we go, "Hey, let's share a 20, So we share a 20, which is about that time, right? So let's share a 20. So this is sort of my peace pipe. Every time I light it up, send prayers to the universe and say thank you to the creator, and pray for, all of y'all. You're on my list, and what family and friends I got, all prayers for them. Oh, hey, John, how are you? Late to the party, but it's always good to see you. We still got a drink, or we still got one. I'll share. Puff, puff, pass. But so, and again, I'm not suggesting that we should stop meditating. Not at all. What I'm saying that, if you can find somebody else that you can meditate with, even on a phone call, because, we're going to meditate, I'm sending prayers out to Luke, that Luke gets better. And we're all going to sit here and say, our prayers for Luke. And Luke who? I don't know. What hospital? Don't know. Is he home in bed? Don't know. So it's like, but we're going to pray for Luke in Moultrie, Georgia. Okay, so we can direct our energy to a Luke somewhere in Moultrie, Georgia, right? And I'm not trying to be facetious or anything. We, praying for Luke. There are a bunch of Lukes in the world, which one and for what? So, and maybe that's why Luke ain't got well, because it's not specific enough. And that's where I'm sort of headed with this, in that it needs more of us at the same time to make our prayer, to make our energy boing, really hit the universe and really do its job. I hate to use this as but like a shotgun. When a shotgun blast, when all the little BBs go out, and it goes out to hit its target. Not to hurt anybody, mind you, but to hit it, so we are all of the little BBs, and we're sending our prayers out, and we're going to shoot our energy out like shotgun shell. And our target is to heal Luke, you know. So, in order to stop a war, maybe it really, honest to God, needs a whole freaking army of us to be able to do that shotgun shell at one time. We all need to be together, not necessarily personally, but we all need to be together and know that, online touching, everybody's doing it at 2:30 on a Wednesday or something, whatever it is, and that we're all ready, and that when 2:30 comes, we all just click, and for the next 10 minutes, we're going to send a hard, about, we're all going to close our eyes, and we're going to think, really think hard on healing Luke, or stopping war, or whatever. So in watching this, and I'm observing this over the many years that I am old, and after the many years of watching prayer and being the victim of a person who prays all the time for folk, because I've accepted this as my job title, no problem, you know, and to continue sending meditation into the universe. But am I doing any flipping good with this? As a shaman in training a couple of weeks ago, I had this little on and off thing, and the my spirit guides were teaching me some things, and my question was, am I doing any? Is any of this any good? I'd love to sit here and chat with you all here on live stream, and um, I don't know if anybody goes in and watches any of these videos after the live stream, but they're up there, they're out there for somebody to watch or whatever, participate. So I put these things out to the universe, is where I'm headed with that. Not that I'm special in any way, but I've put this information to the universe like I've been instructed, and so here it is. So now what do we um, do? We try to plan on setting a time to do even a small collective of meditation. It's when two or more come together in my name, your prayers are heard. So maybe that two or more is sort of the answer. So for every time I've ridden into town, I'll be heading there in the morning. I'm going to pray for Luke. But because I don't know who Luke is or where Luke is, he's in hospital. That's too much information to put on a little, put on a sign on the side of the road. But I still will pray for Luke, whoever he is, right? But again, is that too general? All good shamans should make what? Oh, looking back Texas, Waylon and Willie and the boys make cookies and what? Oh, cookies, cakes, and such. Yeah, that successful life we're living has got us feuding like the Hatfields and McCoys. Dewberry's train songs and blue eyes crying in the rain. They're looking back to Texas. Ain't nobody feeling no pain. I'm sorry, a little musical interlude there. Share 20. But so um, in all the years that I've been meditating, you know, I've come to the conclusion that it must be the fact that we don't get together enough as a collective with enough focus to stop this shit. You know, I mean, it's just like, or to heal poor Luke, you know. Um, and if he's healed, somebody pull up the damn signs, will you? But because I worry about him, um, Luke, that is. So, do we put out signs alongside the road? Pray for peace. You know, I've seen signs on the side of the road. Who is this? The universe freaks me out. It does. It freaks me out too. Oh, go stop it. Yet I'm part of it too. Well, here's the thing about that. And I've been talking to a friend of mine who's really worried about having a heart cath here next week. It was going to be tomorrow, but they canceled, and he's going to have it done next week. So it's going to be a whole week of him worried about it. Well, I've had 3 heart caths done, and I loved looking at the last one because I was able to look at the inside of my heart right there on the video screen. Just about a foot and a half away from me. And it's like, look at that shit right there. That's inside my heart. Yeah, look at that right there. Yeah. Oh wow, man. Oh, I see where you're talking about now. That's where my heart's bad, right? Yep. Oh, I see. Now I can meditate on that spot for it to open up and quit being so close. And this last heart cath I saw of my heart, it the gap had opened up, because if it don't open up, that's where they need to put a stent. And because those little squashy spots that I saw inside my heart are not so squashy anymore, I'm supposed to feel a little better. But I'm doing okay. Um, I'm getting old and that's slowing me down, but to the point I haven't had a heart attack yet, knock on wood, and died, knock on wood. Although yesterday was kind of strange. Um, anyway, the energy that I spend sending prayers out to the universe. Now, I don't feel like it's energy wasted. In my group of folks that I go down, there's Chloe and Barry and, Kat and this and, and go down the list right in my head. And it's not hard to go down the list. I'm just, if I'm walking around or doing something or even on the lawnmower, you know, I have been on the lawnmower riding around going, wow, this is a really nice day. And I'm cutting the lawn and I wish everybody could see me now. And so, prayers to everybody. I'm riding in the lawnmower. I hope your day is going well. And, so to all the cast and crew that are, tapped into, this here live stream, blah, blah. And I'm riding on the lawnmower, right? But I'm envisioning this and sending the message out. Man, it sure is fun out here riding on my lawnmower and hope y'all are having a good day. And, that's my prayers, right? So is that effective? Does anybody think of me? Man, I had a thought of Noel riding around on a god dog John Deere tractor, but not up to this point anyway. But it doesn't matter because I feel like my sending that energy out to all of you is just what I'm supposed to do. And however that energy reaches you, because there's a thought for each one of you. I don't send it out. Now, F Kitty, I might send to F Kitty, we might be having trouble with something, and F Kitty, here's an extra prayer, and boom, and send a prayer towards F Kitty. Don't know where she lives, you know, but I'm sending it to F Kitty. And because we're on here and she's in the chat, I'm assuming that my spirit guides know where she is, right? To send that prayer to her, right? Without just skipping around in the universe. Call on F Kitty. Anybody here? F Kitty, raise your hand. My spirit guides go, oh, there she is over there. Come on, let's go deliver this message. So, that's how I envision it, right? Is that how it works? I don't know. I really feel like that's how it's working. From my years of doing this and sending out prayers and, listening about Edgar Casey and how he would go into his sleep state, as it were, and that he could see the entity out there. Well, I can't see the entity. Now I'm picking on F Kitty at the moment, but my spirit guides can. So I trust in my spirit guides to know where you folk are, right? And so, and if they don't know, they'll tap me on the shoulder and go, "Who you talking about? Who you talking about?" I'm talking about, this guy. Remember the guy over? Oh, okay. And they'll go look for him, right? So, but in the universe of things, I guess I believe in that alternate dimension, right? Is it the fourth dimension you folks are in? Not quite. Okay. Then they're in the ether, which is not a dimension per se. Okay. because the ether coexists with this dimension, it's not a dimension in and of itself. Oh, that makes sense. Okay. Did y'all hear that? So, but so these entities are part of the ether, they say, which I guess we could say is the spirit realm, the spirit world, the spirit, you know. Yeah, okay, they agree with that. All right. So, in this spirit realm thing, you know, there are protocols. In other words, you just can't do anything. You know, it's like there are certain things that work and certain things that don't work. You know, um, and sort of like dimensional things. We just can't pop into the eighth dimension just because we want to. No, it takes practice. It takes you got to know stuff, right? So, same thing with the ether. The same thing with fourth dimension. We just can't pop in and out, especially when we don't know what to do or how to do it. So I heard another thing this last week about these all these energies coming in, and there's a bunch of them. Trust me, ladies and gentlemen, there are a bunch of cosmic energies coming through from the sun, from that place over, um, um, the dog stars, the dog stars right here, and off to the right, two constellations is where this bright um, starburst is coming from. And with that starburst coming in, it's sending a bunch of different kind of angstroms that don't normally come our way. And so, in all of these things are affecting us. The Schumann resonance was way up. It's been buzzing really strong, and then it calms back down, and then boom. Listen, we're feeling. We should be feeling that in our feet. And in talking with different people, that seems like the women have been more inclined to towards sleepiness. Good friend of mine, she's normally up and buzzing about, has been like hitting the bed recently. And her husband's like, what's going on with, mama? Well, like, you hear me talking about cosmic energies. I heard this person talk to them the other night, and they and their friends are all feeling, this sleepiness thing. The sleepiness myself, but I'm not a woman. But but at the same time, his wife has been sleeping, he's been buzzing around, and where he ain't been normally buzzing around. So he's been the one that's up and running around and doing stuff, and she's the one in bed. So they've swapped. But is it because of the cosmic energies? Well, what else would it be? Because these things, and that's just this one couple, and other folks I've talked to around, so there are these cosmic energies that are absolutely affecting us. So because these energies are affecting us, why am I bringing this up? Because it's screwing with our meditation time. It's screwing with our being able to send out our energies to stop the war. A girl with the last 2 days, she been sleeping all the time, and small time. been up. Yeah, but so each one of you, but the interesting thing is, and when I take a survey, I just ask, all the folks I know that, and so it's like, it's been interesting that the ladies have all been, you know, not depressed, but, ready to take a nap in a heartbeat. Uh, what is up with the system in chat? What? New participation trophy from YT. I don't know what that means. But so anyway, I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. Because they're out there. And so I would like to think that, prayers still work. I would like to think that positive energy still works. You know, I'm not going to stop doing it, because I'm just that freaking crazy. Did you take no? I'm fixing to, and I got to drop my eye drops in too. Um, I have two different drops that I have to take for the next uh for the next month. Yes, I got them over there. I'm not late. It was like 3 o'clock before I took my meds this afternoon, and it's only 12:45 from my on my clock, so I'm not late taking meds. But thank you. I do need them drops in my eyes though. That's a for. She was like, "Remember to take your eye drops." I'm about my eyes are going to remind me. You know, I had to buy this little bottle of. I'm going to bitch for a minute. This bottle, Cystane. Where's the light? That looks backwards to me. Cystane. This bottle is it it doesn't have it. It's not Visine or anything like that. It doesn't have stuff in there to constrict your eyes and all that. This is just complete optimal dry eye relief. $7.50 for this little bottle of eye drops. I mean, little bottle scares the crap out of me. Little bottle of eye drops. Do you hear me? Little bottle of eye drops. $7.50, almost $8. But if that's the price I got to pay for the healing of my eyes and after surgery, I'm good with that. But what the hell is in this bottle that is worth $7.50? You know, I scratched my eye one time and my bottle of eye drops is 300. Yep. I got a piece of metal in my eye years ago and they had to go in and dig it out. It was a sharp shard that came off of a grinder. It wasn't even me. I was standing next to it and it came between my glasses and the shield on the side and came right underneath it and caught me in the eye. Hurt like a sumbitch. And then it quit hurting, but I couldn't move my eye. And every time I moved my eye, it hurt. And so I'm looking around and, hurt. It was weird. But yeah, so this Systane is for my in between times when my eyes just feel dry. But this other one is this one has got prednisone in it, and this other one is you notice I'm not using my glasses, huh? It is taking me a little bit to like get focused. This is Opt Solution, and 4 times a day, and I've got 2 refills of this bottle here, which between my medicine the other day was $20, but I had 2 other meds to go along with the eye drops, so the eye drops weren't too bad considering what that one costs, with nothing in it. But anyway, back in the day, I used to mix boric acid, and you mix it together with water and dissolve it, and then you use it as an eye wash. And it's like boric acid. Yeah, read the directions. It's an eye wash, and very effective. And come to think of it, I got some boric acid around here somewhere. Well, so listen, hope you all will continue to. That even hurts my eye. Yeah, I have been hurt and patched up, and the other day that we were talking, and I was like, I forgot all about having to go to the emergency room with a piece of metal in my eye. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Well, have you ever been to the emergency room and blah blah? Nah. And then 2 years later, I went, oh, maybe. Okay. So, but I'll tell you, my new eyeballs, I have seen too many sci-fi and uh, Outer Limits and you know that kind of thing, right? And I'm like, so when I had one eye was done and the other not, I kept blinking between the two because things were so much brighter with my right eye now, and my left eye was like, this is what I've been looking through for the last how many years, right? So I'm thinking, this is the color, and so, and I've got this, you know, Outer Limits, dum da 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 dum da dum dum da 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 dum da dum dum da da dum da da. Anyway, what's his name? Yeah. Um. So I'm this mess is going through my head, right? And I'm like, man, but to the point though, we learn to see things, and we're taught to see things, but then when you get right down into it, you go, well, that ain't quite how it goes. What? The man behind the curtain kind of thing. What? Not as drastic, but so everything that I was looking at with this eye was actually tan until Hitchcock. Thank you very much, John. Dum, da, 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 dum, that you recognize my poor musical talents. But so anyway, yeah. So all this was running through my head, and I was creating my own scenario. I'm looking with left eye, right eye. Wait, now I can see the truth. And this eye is still, you know, I can't see the aliens with this eye. And look at all the aliens. This eye's been cleared. Oh my God. It's that that crazy. you know, that freaking crazy. But so One of the things the other day, and I'm asking the universe kind of thing, like, hey, you got any good news for me here lately? And so the information that seemed to be coming down the line is that there are half truths that have to be told in order for the whole truth to come out. That's a prediction. That's a prophecy, if you will. Half truths must be told in order for the whole truth to come out. And I think that has to do with like the Epstein files and about this over here and about that over there. And, that half truths will be told in order that the whole truth will come out. So somebody will go, wait a minute, I don't believe that shit. Well, part of it will be true. And you go, but that part right there is true. But what about the rest of it? Sounds like horseshit. Per Google, boric acid. What? Boric acid has a variety of traditional uses, primary as an antiseptic. Yep. Oh, an insecticide? I didn't know that. Oh, maybe that's what I need to use for fleas on Duggar. And fire. Oh, and fire retardant. Yeah, I did know about that. I forgot it though. But it also finds applications in manufacturing, agriculture, and even as a neutron absorber. Holy crap. Historically, it's been used as an eye wash. Yep, I used to use it for that. In wound dressings and for treating fungal infections. Additionally, it's a component in a variety of products like glass and pottery, cosmetics, and certain pesticides. I am not what? I am not seeing neutron absorber as a traditional use. Thank you for that tidbit of information. I remember using it a long time ago. I've got a bottle in the bathroom that's up by the sink, and you used to mix in a little bit in a glass and put the glass under your eye like this and tilt the glass up to where it gets in your eye and washes your eye. And then you just open your eye and close it and work it, work it, work it. And then let the glass, tilt your head down, let it fall out. And then you do the other eye the same way. And I used to do that all the time with boric acid, especially when I worked in a dusty condition. Thank you, F. Kitty. And I do have boric acid here. It's also roaches. It doesn't like roaches, and roaches will get it on their tiny little feet and lick it and eat it, and so will ants. And but if they get the boric acid inside them, it makes them swell up, and their insides sort of explode. So um, when small animals or whatever gets next to boric acid, if they eat it, I had a ferret that died because it picked up a roach that had eaten one of my little pellets, and thus the ferret died. Could not get enough fluids in the thing, and he just dehydrated from the inside out. It was horrible to watch that. I'm telling you. But so anyway, the they make little dough balls around here with just a little sugar and just a little bit of flour to hold it together, and then they put boric acid in with it, just a sprinkling. And so they roll it up and make these little dough balls, that's nice and sweet and got some boric acid in it. And it's just a little piece of dough. And they put it around. Um, there's a couple of the schools around here um, that them old colored women that know how to do stuff made these things. And so when the health inspector would go in, they'd go, "You guys got no roaches. How come?" And they'd go, "Because, well, missa, we makes up these little roach balls and we put them all around and we ain't got no roaches." They was in the newspaper because how smart they was. And who take your recipe, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of flour, a little dash of water to make it, make it putty, and some boric acid, and just lay them around. And so, but you can put, I've done this with, because roaches need something to drink, other critters too, right? But just take the cap, soda cap, right? And just put a little water in it and a little bit of boric acid and stir it around until you see the boric acid dissolve. If it doesn't all dissolve, then you've added too much. So next time you do it, you'll know. But then the roaches will come up and drink this fluid because they're thirsty, not knowing there's boric acid in it and that it will eventually kill them in a day or two. So, but yeah, the boric acid, yeah. How about that? A pesticide. I'm gonna have to read up on that. So, but anyway, you know, oh, it ain't quite a 20. So nowadays, there's so much hatred in certain sectors about a certain person and about the actions of a certain person. But today, the actions, quote, of a certain person has actually been the Senate of the United States government that passed the big, beautiful bill thing. Okay. So now it's all DJT's fault. He did it. It's his. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's a false statement. He's behind it, yeah. Is it his? Not by a long shot. Why? Because first it went through the House, and then it has passed the Senate, and now at this particular moment, it's back in the House. Now, does that thing belong to DJT? Honest to God. Does it belong to him? No. Did he write it? No. Did folks that work for him and part of the Republican Party and so forth write the bill and what's in it and so forth? Yes. Is it his? No. Is he to blame for some of the stuff that's in it that he might not have wanted in there in the first place? Well, no, but it's his. No, no, it ain't. No, it ain't. It's ours. It's not just his, okay? It's ours. Our representatives and our senators either voted for it or didn't, right? There were stipulations and things that he wanted in the bill, of course, but is it his? No, it's ours. You can go and talk about, oh, Donald Trump did this and this. That. It's not his. It's ours because of the interactions of the 100 senators and all of the representatives that have the bill back in their hand again. It's ours, yours and mine. It's theirs. They put it together. There are things in there I don't like, and there are other things that other people don't like, but I'm sure that we'll work it out. We always have figured it out. So, but why did I bring that up? Because it's that kind of thing that's sucking the energy out of our prayers. Well, I'm hoping for the best. Me too. I'm praying that, our Social Security doesn't get cut. Me too. Now, I see these commercials. People call me on the phone. How do they know I'm retired? I don't know. Somehow my name's been let out, you know. Um, so, but some of the advertisement says, for you and your Social Security checks. Well, I don't get a check. I get direct deposit. There may be the rare instance where Social Security actually mails out a check, but they have demanded for a while that you have a bank account so that they can direct deposit the money to you, so that it cuts down and almost eliminates fraud, because nobody can steal your check from you. It's being deposited straight to your bank and to your account. So they say, oh, what about your checks? You know, it's, but there are no checks. But they keep saying the checks for senior citizens, the checks for senior citizens, the checks for senior citizens. Senior citizens don't get checks. It goes into our bank accounts. Dumbass. But anyway, so there are things that if you listen to their language, wait a minute, we don't get checks. What's this blowhard talking about? Well, wait, hey, Margaret, he's talking about our checks. I don't get a check anymore. It goes to the bank. Right. So, they're trying to scare us because your checks. Well, wait, because it's too hard. Your direct deposits will be affected by this. No, they got to say your checks. You know, American citizens' checks will be bothered versus Americans, their direct deposits will be bothered. See, that don't sound so dramatic, right? So they stick with checks. Seniors' checks will be, messed up. Senior citizens' direct deposits will be not as fiery, but anyway. So in this big, beautiful, whatever it is, it's ours. Now, I'm an uncle over here on the side, and I don't have the same birthing pains that's going on right now, and as to what's going to be on the other side. But I do know from what I have seen and read and watched that there's a lot of good stuff in it. And the stuff that ain't so good, we should work out on the other side. And I think that a lot of folks feel that way. It's like, well, because as the cards say, you can't please everybody all the time. You can't do it. So what you do is you try to hit a compromise. You got to get as many folks as you can to be happy with what's going on. And so JD Vance had to be the tying boat, you know, for it to get passed, but it's going back to the House to get reconsidered anyway. So, but here's the thing, it's ours, okay? If you got a beef with something, that getting in touch with your representative now and, let them take care of whatever it is, because now's the time. I don't care if it gets signed on July 4th. I don't care. What I care about is that there's no stupid shit in the bill, which always happens with a big bill. It's always happened in the past. Months ago, I did a video that said, you know, one 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 bill, one vote. You want to change this, then okay, then this bill, put it before them. Yes or no, pass it. Okay, next one at a time. And no, they decided to clump them all together. So no, I'm not happy about that. I absolutely believe that, and there's a couple other folks that believe, that the things that were in there should have been voted on separately, one thing at a time. Now, why would they put all that stuff together? I hate to say it, but it's so they can slip shit in. Uncle Dave, what you talking about? Well, because, there's all these things, and it's like, wait a minute, there's $1 billion over here, and it's supposed to be spent by such and such. Well, but who's supposed to send it, and where it's supposed to go? And, is there any congressional, oversight over this money? No. Well, shouldn't there be? So that was one of the beefs, was what was going on with the senators. I don't know how they resolved it, but I would have, I'm like, hey, y'all fix that mess. I think it was Senator Kennedy, bless his heart. Um, but so anyway, with the cards that came out tonight, it's that we're all going to have to understand that we have an open field to have a discussion with the Creator. We don't have to go through anybody to have conversation with the universe. So if you're having a problem working through something, or you're trying to figure out what's coming up in the future, and how you should negotiate it, one of the best things to do in nature is like when you're kayaking or canoeing, or boating in general, but you're closer to the water in a kayak, and you're going in some bumpy water, and you got your life jacket on, and maybe even a helmet. And so you're bumping along, and you come up to something, and you see a big spray of water, and you hear a roar, sort of. And so you need to, what do? You don't stay in the middle of the darn, uh, well, not smart people. They don't stay in the middle of the current, and just keep on going. No, you pull up, and you go to one side of the bank or the other, and you kind of creep up, and come to find out there's a 20-foot, fall in front of you, you know, and you were barreling down the middle of the stream, which has happened to me, I'm telling you. So you're barreling down the middle of the stream, and you go, wait a minute, let me pull up here and see what's up. And you go up there a little bit, and you see, and you go, how am I going to get through this one, right? Fortunately or unfortunately, we all backed up and went straight over it. Boom. It was great. But to the point, though, you want to look ahead, and if you see something that you're not quite sure of, slow down, creep up to the edge, and take a peek. Don't keep barreling ahead and then get smucked in the head and have an accident. Uh, so life is like that all the time. And in these new days of, the new bills, the new this, the new that, the new, you know, um, things being turned off that were turned on yesterday. Um, there's some big deals that are going on right now, and people are going to be shucking and jiving trying to figure them out. So the best thing to do is take two steps back, take a deep breath, take a look at what's going on, and then figure your best action forward. So the cards show that to be patient, you know, um, to use the wisdom of whale, you know, and to bring our own knowledge forward, and and to not be fearful, but to be cautious. So, with that said, I'm going to keep meditating. I'm going to keep praying. I'm going to keep putting good energy out there. So, it's going with the collective, and maybe a time or two, my prayers will go out with somebody else's at the same time. Or maybe two or three of us, not even knowing, will be praying at the same time. And that we'll all be thinking of the great spirit and the creator. And then we'll be smoking our peace pipe all at the same time. And that our message to the universe will be peace and, brotherly love between us rather than hatred and war, right? Hey, hey. Our prayers go up with the smoke. And so I don't smoke that much, but I got a lot of prayers going up with the smoke. So, so my message and for the future, we got to have faith. You know, we got to have faith. For the last few days, I've been feeling so squirrely, but, I can't let, but the 2 days before that were really, really good, So it's like, damn it, man. Why can't I have 4 days in a row? I can only get two, And maybe that's from the cosmic energies. And I do feel that I am being affected by that because I see a lot of other people that are and who are acknowledging it, like the Stefan Burns on YouTube, physicist who does shows all the stuff, space weather things. And he's like, man, I can feel it here. This is what ascension feels like. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about. This is what ascension feels like. And I was like, oh no, man, don't go there. Oh, please, you know. And but what he was trying to say was is that, the higher and the higher frequencies that are coming into the planet, and that's why the Schumann resonance is up so high because the whole planet Earth is feeling these cosmic energies and magnetisms, and that's why the whole planet is just buzzing, right? And it's got all of us being affected in different ways. So before you go jumping off a cliff, go sit at the bottom and contemplate. Say, wait a minute, let me crawl down here and look up and go, oh, I see what it looks like from down here. I'm not gonna jump, no, I'm not gonna jump. You hear me? Come on down. Well, I got some lemonade. We'll sit down here because all I got was lemons, and they told me to make lemonade. So, but in this world of stuff, I pray for my buddy who's going for but it's not really surgery. It's you know, exploratory. But he's so wound up with, well, I know you told me it doesn't hurt. It doesn't. And I know you told me that it's really cool to look at, when it's inside your heart. And yeah, tell them you want to watch, they'll let you watch. No, I don't want to do that. I'm like, dude, you're going to have a heart cath and you're not going to look. You're going to regret it. you're a mechanic, you want to know what's inside and what makes things tick. And you don't want to look inside your own ticker to find out how it's working. Oh, come on. So, but anyway, but there are folks like that. And there are some folks who, golly, I'm going to keep praying for them. There are some folks who are intelligent people. Okay. They have graduated in some in some way, shape, or form in some type of profession. And they're not stupid, okay? They've passed, they've worked 10 or 15 years in their field, and maybe some have worked for a hospital, um, I know a person I'm thinking of that works as a nurse for a urologist. Another person who has worked in um, a radiology department at the hospital for 20 years. And so there are people. So these people know their job. They're smart. They're intelligent. They work well with others, kind of thing. But when they start talking about, for example, things about space, and they say, "Well, I know what the solar system is, and I know what the this is, and I know what the that is." Okie doke. So then when you try to explain that the sun is actually a comet because we're all going through the universe, you know, the sun is moving and we are all moving with the sun through the universe. No, we're not. But I thought you said you knew about the solar system. Well, I do. And that's not what it's like. I, but, but cosmically, yeah, I know there's a planet out beyond Pluto, and there's Ceres and this one and that one, and like, okay. But let's go back to the solar system. It's flying through the universe with all of us. No, it's not. And this one's going to come by, and in the planet Earth's going to something something, and this is like, and I'm like, so here's an intelligent person who has worked for years at an intelligent job, okay? And you'd think that some information would, just by reading it in a magazine or listening to, you know, but then you have to stop and realize who they've been listening to. And they've been listening to the likes of that black gentleman who talks a good line and who's on all the time when they want some kind of physicist opinion, when there are a lot of physicists who are going, get that guy off the television. So, well, I learned this there on blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry, but that's not how our solar system is. Well, it lines up directly with this and this and says, looking at it from the top down, that's how it lines up. But they don't physically line up in a line. Oh, yes, they do. No, they don't. I mean, the Mercury's here and Venus is kind of down here and Earth is a little bit down here and Mars is out here and then Jupiter's out here and it's kind of down. They don't actually line up the way you see it from the top down. When you look at it from the side, they're not really lined up. I'm sorry. Um, you know, but magnetically they do connect, and in that they line up. I don't know what you're talking about. This magnetism, that's some spooky stuff, and blah, blah, blah. And that ain't true. I've heard that, that magnetism crap, and it's like, have you like paid attention to anything about magnetic lines and things? You know about the solar system, and so how come you don't know anything, even just a little bit about magnetism in the solar system? Well, I know all of this, and you're wrong. And I would try to explain, you're wrong. But I'm telling you that such and such and such, you're wrong. You need to send me a link because you're wrong. And I'm like, what I'm telling you is just standard astronomy 101. Just go out there and type in astronomy 101 and look, and you can see, but you need to send me a link. You need to prove who you need to cite your where you're getting your information from. And I'm like, it's basic astronomy. It's who do I cite for this? It's basic astronomy. I'm saying that you need to give me a site, and so that we can be talking on the same page. And I'm like, type in astronomy and look at what, holy crap. So, but smart people with years of experience and, some college, or at least, some quality education. Okay. I went to a tech school. They didn't teach me about comets and stuff, but I did take a physics course that taught me things that I still use to this day. I have to go get my physics book and I have to look shit up, but at least I have the understanding of where to go look for, formulas for answers, right? So, but these folks, and here the thing that bothers me the most is that they are convinced that I'm wrong. But without there's no room for, well, maybe I should, I'm not sure about that. Where you look at, well, if you would do, as I said, type in this, you'll look at it. But everything I mentioned, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. Absolutely convinced that everything that I was saying about basic astronomical things about the planets was wrong. So I was trying to explain, that the Voyager that went out and pinged a message back and where it was in the solar system, and oh, you're wrong. You're wrong. Oh, okay. Never mind. But again, what bothers me is smart people who are dumbass when it comes to things above their pay grade. They have learned to do their job. They've learned good speech and, how to do reports and how to read, gamma rays from x-rays and stuff. And they were good at their job for 20 years, and they've raised children, but they don't know shit about nothing else. And some of what they do know, that they swear they know, has been picked up from different sources and hodgepodge together. And now that they are convinced, because they have talked to their women friends, that they got this little circle of hens that get together and squawk about stuff, and talk about stuff. And so this one has a little bit of misinformation over here. And I mean, it's like, oh, that, something about Jupiter. Jupiter's of this and that, and they talking about, oh, that's true, and Jupiter's this, and Saturn's this, and woo. They ain't got no scientific data about what they're talking about. They just make up their mind that that's what they heard, and that now that's what they all believe. So then the next thing is built upon that falsehood. Jupiter's of this, and that means that this is that, and it's like, no, I'm sorry, but you got it all wrong. No, you're wrong. So, why am I bringing this up after 2 hours? Well, for those of you that stuck with me, this thing about ET and this thing about disclosure, these smart people who have worked at these jobs and who put in their time and who have education are a bunch of dumbasses. So, this alien disclosure is going to go right over their heads. Nyum. Some of this stuff that's being talked about now is going right over their heads. Nyum. There it goes. Well, wait. Well, what are they talking about? Nyum. Right over their head. Well, I didn't hear that. Nyum. Right over their heads again. They know. Yeah, no common knowledge. Well, but I follow space stuff. I have since I was, in high school. And I'm an old geezer. And I've been following this stuff. I thought how cool it would be to be an astronaut at one time. And but I realized I wasn't smart enough. But I still wanted to watch the rockets, to watch them go off, and eventually I became an engineer working with in the automotive industry, which was cool. And I did work in an airplane factory for a while, and in different areas within the factory. So I got a good experience of how to build airplanes, light airplanes, small aircraft. But it still had the experience, right? Um, uh, I'll never forget when them doors flew open on me. Um, so where was I headed with that? These folks they're not really stupid, but the knowledge that they've gotten has come in from different sources. And so they've listened to the History Channel one time and remember this little bit about a something. And then 9 months later, they hear, watch, or something else that was sort of like what they saw a few months ago. And they remember this little something, right? And then they try to correlate this little something from a few months ago to the show that's on now, and then they go talk to their women friends. You know, well, I heard that the that the that the sun is not hollow, it's solid and it's full of hydrogen. And ain't hydrogen and H2O. I mean, there must be water up there. And then the next thing you know, these 6 or 7 ladies are talking about how, there's hydrogen on the sun, therefore there must be water, just like the earth must be flat, right? So it's like, okay, so the earth must be flat and there's water on the sun. It's got to be it, right? So then, in between them, that's they have the knowledge, right? they're using chemistry, H2O, and and there's so the sun got to have water on it, right? Oh Lord, have mercy, So they've heard things sciency. They've not looked it up. They heard a friend of theirs talk about it. They read an article. They were sitting under the dryer and reading something in the back of an article, and so they have pieced together stuff, and that makes them an expert. Okay, versus somebody like me as an engineer who actually really studied some of these things. I've actually got a piece. It's one of the ceramic tiles that was a scrap piece from one of the space shuttles before the space program took off. And no, it's not from a crashed one or anything, but I've got a piece of a shuttle upstairs, one of the ceramic tiles. And you can tell it's like, um, it's a spare. But I've taken a torch and put a torch right on it and it won't even get hot. It's amazing. But so anyway, even with what I know and having a part of the space shuttle, you know, a spare part debunked, not a part from a working shuttle. Okay, I got to say that with full disclosure that it was never a part of it was a spare um, for a prototype before the program actually got off the ground, and it was a gift to one of the visiting engineers as a souvenir, and I ended up with it. So, but anyway, but even with a piece of a space shuttle, I don't know about everything about them. Even though I've studied them and looked and watched and listened, I don't know everything about a space shuttle. So I could get into a conversation with somebody, but if somebody worked for NASA and I was having a conversation and we were, and I was trying to be all bloody eyed how much I knew, and he would sit back and fold his hands and go, "You're a dumbass," because I wouldn't really know because I wasn't there. I'm I know about the shuttle from a distance. And when I was at the Kennedy Space Center, I actually saw the shuttle at a distance. So there is that, but that's as close as I got, and and I only know as much as I've read. So, but some of these people, they're adamant in that they know what a, a someone with a PhD in astrophysics, they claim to know more than them, and it's like, you don't. But yes, I do. I read this book and I heard this and I watched this. But you don't, honey. Let's go take a class, go take a course. Well, I took a course and I took this. You mean you didn't? You passed one semester of Astronomy 101 and you don't know what the solar system, how it works? You can't tell me how it's worked, how it's spinning just a little bit? No, but you're lying and you're wrong. I took a year in astronomy and I've been studying it and I've been, oh well. So when the aliens come out, if and when the president and other folks say, yep, aliens are true and this and that. And folks are going to go, well, I knew about this and I knew about that. And their tiny little brains, because they have gotten tidbits of information over the years, they have been fed misinformation. I'm not talking about misinformation. I'm talking about information they picked up on their own. All right. But in that information is misinformation. So they picked up their own tidbits of stuff, and then there'd been the misinformation that's been poured out. And so if you don't know any better, to not listen, people go, "Ooh, I heard that such and such and such." Not really. Calm down. And there are some things that are true that you will never believe me because you find it too fantastic. Okay. So when these things that I've been talking about and some other people, I'm going to be blown away with stuff that's going to get opened up. Did you know we've been doing this and this is how that works? And holy crap. So, but then there are, I guess Cliff High and other folks call them, the normies. But, I'm considering some of these folks to be maybe supposedly a little above just normies. They've studied a little bit, they've read some books, and they seem to have some information under their belts. But it seems like somehow with the information that they got, it's gotten misconstrued and twisted in their tiny little bean cap. They don't see that. No, no, darling, no. That right there is a piece of rebar. No, this is a piece of such and such, and this is just, it's rebar. It's a piece of steel rod, and this is used. It's a piece of rebar. It's used during the construction, and they use it in cement. This is the steel rod, and it's been used for. It's a piece of rebar, honey. It's used all the time in cement. You put it in the cement and pour the cement, and it makes the cement strong. It's called rebar. Reinforcement rod, rebar is its. No, it's a strong thing, and it has these little that's for your handholds. No, that's rebar. It goes and see. Never mind. I've had the conversation, over rebar. Yes, it's steel. Yes, it's steel. Yes, it's a rod. It's in the rod. Okay, never mind. It's a steel rod. It's a such and such. Okay. Yes, you can use it for that, but it's called rebar and it's used during construction and concrete. No, but I don't care what. It's like I can understand that. Yes, I can accept that what you're saying it could be used for that, but you can't accept that that same steel rod called rebar in construction terms could be used in cement to keep things. You can't accept that. No, it doesn't. You can't use it for that. I'm just like, holy crap. So we have that to contend with. We have those folks who have learned stuff, who know too much of nothing. And God bless them. Some of these people went to school for it. Some of these people have a degree, like a PhD, pile it high and deeper. PhD, piled high and deeper. So, aliens going to show up. They're going to start talking about new technologies. They're going to start talking about this and that. And then all of the crazy people are going to be coming out going, I knew about this. They told me it was going to be like that. And this is it. So the people that thought they had enough information that they were smart enough to comprehend what's going on, they ain't going to be able to comprehend it. Or their comprehension's going to be twisted because what they've learned over the years has been twisted. So in order to get these people up to snuff, to learn some basic things like where the planets are in the solar system, um, they're going to have to unlearn the stupid stuff they've picked up over the years. No, Sally, that's not true. The rings around Saturn doesn't mean that it's married to Jupiter. Okay. No, Sally. Yes, Neptune is upside down, but not because it's next to Uranus. But but anyway, book smart, yeah. But it's sort of like a couple of little old ladies who read the same article at the beauty parlor. And it's a popular science magazine, and they all read the same article, right? But because each of these ladies has a little bit different understanding of mechanical things, they each describe it in their own way, and each of the ladies understands it. That lady over there, they understand her what she means, right? But then they've got, Sally over here understands it like this, and these two over here, but they all agree that it's about, a rocket going up, but how it gets there and who was talking. And so each one of them has picked a particular paragraph in the article where their main focus is that they remember. So between them, they put the article together, but from their own memories, right? So then they take that information as gospel, but they're all off just a little bit. So that's what I meant by there are going to be they're going to have to tell some half truths in order for the whole truth to come out. Because people have learned these half truths. Well, yes, yes, Margaret, it is steel, and yes, it is a rod. But what you're asking it to be used for is not what it's used for. It's used for concrete and construction, and it's called rebar, Margaret. But Margaret's going to argue with you up inside, one down the other side. You are wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. It can't be used for that because this is what we use it for, and this is how it's going to be used. And we got to cut it up into little sections. We got to do that. And we learned how to bend it. And okay, it's still called rebar. No that. So these folks are going to have to unlearn some things. They're going to know the half truth. They're going to know that bit that's like, well, wait a minute. I thought the whole thing was true. Nope. Just this much of it was true. Not the whole thing, you know. You mean the Indians didn't eat up the settlers on Thanksgiving? You mean there wasn't a massacre on Thanksgiving? No, actually, it was the day after, but nope. And the Indians didn't bother to eat them. No. They're. Where did you hear this? Well, Christopher Columbus, he knew all about that first, Oh, man. Okay, never mind. So wherever you get these tidbits of information that get pulled together as the truth, and that these fragments that you've made up compromise a half truth, because somewhere along you picked it up. There was truth in what you heard. There's, it's true. So I can't argue that point that you know a half truth. And now there's going to have to be a half truth told so that the whole truth can be seen. That's what's coming, ladies and gentlemen. Yeehaw. It ought to be fun. Well, I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. If the universe is bucking too hard, just kind of, stand off to the side and let that horse or that bull jump all he wants to. And when he gets tired, then you go over and say, "You had enough." One of the things, for example, before I let y'all go, is I've been watching a lot of fishing here lately of other folks' being, on pontoon boats and little things and bigger boats and all kinds of, but and doing different kinds of fishing. Well, here's one thing, but and my friend came over and we had conversation, and they had went deep sea fishing off the Atlantic coast last weekend. And she caught a great big snapper, big red snapper. She said, "Man, that thing fought. Man, bringing it in, the pole was just a bending, and I've been watching these, you know, the Gulf of Mexico type fishing anglers and lakes and things and rivers and so it's like and these folks, the one guy pulled in a 35-pound catfish. His monster was huge, and he's pulling it in. And here's the thing: you reel it in and you work the fish, and the trick is to why you pull up and then you reel like hell to catch up the slack, and you pull up. Now the reason for that is to try to keep the fish's nose up and to keep dragging him at you. So, and as the fish fights you to try to get away, the fish finally tires out. Because if you try to drag the fish in too soon, a good chance you'll lose him. They'll throw the hook out, right? So the whole thing is that you have to outlast the fish. So my friend Mandy and them were reeling in a fish. Her daughter was reeling in a fish. They worked it. She reeled it, and got so tired she handed it over to her daddy. And her daddy reeled and reeled and pulled and reeled and reeled and reeled, and he got tired and passed it off to the nephew. And the nephew grabbed a hold of it, and he reeled and pulled and reeled and pulled and reeled and pulled, and then Miss Emma got the rod back where she had started from and was pulling and reeling, and they just weren't getting anywhere. And the captain of the boat come up and he looked at her and he said, "Honey, I know you have worked hard for this, but," he said, "you see my deckhand over there?" "Yes, sir." And he said, "Tell her how you got that." And he said, "Shark bite." And she went, "What?" He said, "3 days ago, we was out here on the water and this exact same thing happened. You've hooked a shark and not in the mouth. You must have hooked him somewhere on the side," which I've hooked fish on the side before. And as you're trying to drag that fish in, you can't keep his head up. And so, therefore, that fish is not getting tired. And there's no way he said, "They ain't enough of us on this boat to tire out that fish." So I'm gonna have to cut your line. And she was like, no, no, we've all been, and it was true, man. Four people had, well, she did it twice, but three people, pulled on that fish to try to drag it in, and he reached out there and cut the line. Sometimes that's what you got to do. You can pull and pull and pull and pull and pull, but you dragging something that just ain't going to come up. And you got to know when to cut the line. Honest to God, you got to know when to cut the line. But that don't mean you give up. But it does mean you need to pay attention because, you don't want to get shark bit. You need to take advice from the captain. So I saw this whole story. It just happened last weekend. Well, a couple of days ago, but to the point where, if you don't want to get shark bit, you pay attention to the universe. In other words, they were pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled in the shark, and in trying to untangle it, he was careless and got his hand too close, and the shark reached up, snapped up, and got him in the hand, you know, while he was on the deck. So, yeah, dangerous. I've been speared by catfish in the hand, and I've been watching these people handling these catfish, and I'm like, man, I handling from the belly and this, and they toss them all around, and I'm like, man, I would have got speared by now. But anyway, so in this world of stuff, you got to keep pulling. You want that fish to come in. So that fish is your dream. The fish is what you want out of life, right? You want to reel it in. So you want to reel in those things in life, right? You spotted them. You're out there fishing for them, right? So now you're going to reel them in. And sometimes you can reel them in, and it's an easy one, right? It's not a huge fish, but it's pretty good size because you can feel it pulling on the other end, and you reel it slowly in. It gives a little fight there towards the end, but you reel them in. So that might be a small project that you wanted to accomplish in life, and then there's that bigger prize. Then there's the you really gotta you throw that puppy out there, and you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, and it's going to take you a few years versus going to tech school and learning how to weld. There's a difference. Might be better off at tech school learning how to weld, but to the point, you know, when you graduate doing what you learn how to do, whether it's a 2-year course or a 8-year course, you feel just as good for your accomplishment. And if you spent 2 years learning how to weld, you're probably going to be a pretty dang good welder. Now you can go to 8 years of school to be a doctor, but that don't mean shit. That don't mean you're going to be a good doctor. You might actually be better at welding than being a doctor. But anyway, in this life of times, and it's been almost 3 hours again. Man, I sure can talk, can I? Um, the future coming up, half truths will have to be told in order for the whole truth to come out. That's interesting. Messages from the ether. So I continue to pray each and every day that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. And keep on praying. Yeah, keep on doing a little bit of meditation. It's not hard to do, and don't let other people intimidate you. Well, you got to meditate like this. Oh, no, hell, you don't. You know, if anybody's going to be snooty about you don't know how to meditate or you don't know what you're doing, don't even pay attention to them kind of folk. So keep it between the ditches. Thank you, Chloe and Miss Cat and anybody that's still with me this early on 2 hours and 40 minutes in. So please be good. Please be safe. And until next time, I continue to be your friendly neighborhood shaman in training, otherwise known as Hawkeye Two Feathers. So adios, my friends.